So earlier we saw that there are certain discourses taken up at all levels of learning. Conversation is one of those examples. Now, how do we differentiate between the conversation constructed by a learner in primary level from that constructed by a high school student? So obviously there could be some linguistic features which fix the level of his conversation. This is true about other discourse also. Now let's watch a clipping.
Where is your book? My book is on the table. Where is your book? My book is in my bag. What are you looking for? The remote. You are holding it. I kept it on the teapot. Are you sure? Yes, I am. Why is it missing? Who knows?
Now you have listened to two pieces of conversation. Which one is linguistically at a higher level?
The second one.
Now, could you just say why you say the second one is at a higher level? Try to identify some of the features.
In the second conversation, there are question tags.
There are question tags. All right. Another observation.
Also in the second conversation, we see usage of phrases like looking for, which learners of only higher level
All right.
might be familiar with.
Any other feature? Can you?
Also, there are discourse markers in the second
give an
one.
example of that?
Looking for.
Yeah, of
Of
course.
course.
And kind of thing. Grammaticality of the sentence that you used. You have two samples. In the first one, you are listening to all full sentences. What about the second one?
The second one was not complete sentences, whereas the first one was complete sentences. And
so in natural conversation, people don't talk by using always, full-fledged sentences. If a full sentence is needed, they will use that. Otherwise, if a fragment is needed, it will be only a fragment. So this is a higher level, in fact. All right. And also, let us look at some more clippings.
Where are the children's books, please?
In that room right over there. Want me to pick you out one with lots of pictures in it?
No, thank you. I'm sure I can manage.
Where'd all this come from?
Library.
The library? You've never set foot in a library. You're only 4 years old.
6.5.
You're 4.
6.5.
If you were 6.5, you'd be in school already.
I want to be in school. I told you I was supposed to start school in September. You wouldn't listen. Mama! Yente, the matchmaker is coming.
Maybe she's finally found a good match for you, Zeitel.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Why does she have to come now? It's almost Sabbath.
Out, all of you. I want to talk to Yente alone.
But, Mama, the men she finds. The last one was so old. And he was bald. He had no hair.
A poor girl without a dowry can't be so particular. You want hair, marry a monkey.
Even a poor girl without a dowry has to look at her husband sometime.
A husband is not to look at. A husband is to get.
But, Mama, I'm not yet 20 years old. I don't think I have to.
Do you have to boast about your age? Do you want to tempt the evil eye? Oh, out, all of you. There's work to be done before the Sabbath. Hurry. All of you, hurry.
From the specimens of conversations, you can identify some features relevant for the higher levels, which are not relevant for the lower classes. Now, what are the features of a conversation? Or let us say, what goes into the text of a conversation? Can you say something about that? See, just like a sentence has a structure, every discourse has a structure. So what could be the structure of a conversation? Conversation or dialogue?
There is a sender and a receiver. There's a
Right.
speaker and a listener.
Okay. So the speaker initiates. So you can say that there is an initiation and a response to that. Right? So the minimal structure of a conversation is an initiation and a response. And depending on the involvement of the speakers and also the hearer, there could be more sequence of exchanges. And there could be some other features like, for example, a proper sequence of exchange will be there, right? Then there is something called how a speaker sustains the conversation. Now, in fact, there is no end for any conversation. You can keep on, adding it, but normally human beings don't do that, and there will be a contextual relevance for it. Okay, so look at the screen for the features of a conversation. I'll just read out: initiation, response appropriate to the initiation, 2 or more exchanges, ideas and feelings relevant to the context, proper sequence of exchanges, sustaining the conversation, contextual relevance, maintaining social norms, and then use of discourse markers like well, precisely. Okay, now avoiding digression and using connectives wherever necessary, and using pronouns and using formulaic expressions like thank you or how are you. So these are all features of a conversation. Now obviously you cannot target all these features at all levels. So if you fix it at the end of let's say secondary level education, you can fix these are the features targeted at that level, and at the lower level some of the features can be left out. In the lower classes, say in class 1 or 2, it will be just an initiation and a response. Now this is true about other discourses also. Let us take the sample of a description. Quite often people get involved in describing things, So what are the things that we usually describe in language, Describe what?
Place.
You can describe a place. You can describe a person. What else? A situation. Think.
An object.
Yeah, an object. All right. Can you describe a process?
Yes.
You can. So do you think the features of each of this description will be the same or different? So let's try to look at it now. So what could be the features of a description of a person? What will go into that? Now, dear students, now there is a handout for you. You can know more about the discourse description. Now you can look at the handout and each one read one segment of it.
Describing a person, details such as who and what the person is, physical attributes, societal status, achievements, contributions, personal impressions.
Yeah. Now you can read out describing an object. Okay.
Describing an object. Details such as what it is, where it is found, physical properties such as shape and color, what it is used for, etc.
Describing a place. Scenic details of the location, images, sensory perceptions, etc.
Describing events. Details such as what the event is, where it is taking place, the persons or things involved, the order of events, scenic details, images, sensory perceptions, etc.
The last one.
Describing a process. Details such as what it is for, things involved, sequence, etc.
Yeah, that's good now. So you have an excerpt from Henry James' The Lightman story. Who would like to read this aloud?
We found him in his library, a room arranged for a lifetime. At one end stands a great fireplace with a florid, fantastic mantelpiece in carved white marble. Over the mantel shelf is a large landscape, a fine Gainsborough, full of complicated harmonies of an English summer. Beneath it stands a row of bronzes of Renaissance and potteries of the Orient. Facing the door, as you enter, is an immense window set in a recess with cushioned seats and large clear panes, stationed as it were at the very apex of the lake. At the other end, opposite the fireplace, the wall is studded from floor to ceiling, with choice of foreign paintings placed in relief against the orthodox crimson screen.
Yeah. Now just listen to a description of a room as it is done in Henry James' story. Now you can see the feature, how the author is creating vivid picture in the mind, what you see, So this is one of the higher level features of description. Now there is one more piece of writing from the same author. It's about describing a person. Now who would like to read that?
He is curiously pale with a kind of opaque yellow pallor. Literally, it's a magnificent yellow. His skin is of just the hue and apparent texture of some old crumbled oriental scroll. I know a dozen painters who would give more than they have to arrive at the exact tone of his thick, veined, bloodless hands, his polished ivory knuckles. His eyes are circled with red, but in a battered little setting of their orbits, they have the luster of old sapphires. His nose, owing to the fallen away of other portions of his eyes, of his face, he has assumed a grotesque, unnatural prominence. It described an immense arch, gleaming like a piece of parchment stretched on ivory. He has apparently all his teeth, but has muffled his cranium in a dead black wig. Of course, he is shaven cleanly. His dress has a muffled, weathered look and an apparently aversion to linen, inasmuch as none of is visible on his person. He seems neat enough, but not fastidious. His eyes are the oldest eyes I ever saw, and yet they are wonderfully living. He has something remarkably insinuating.
Yeah, so whether it is a description of a person or a place, you can see how the writer creates vivid images in the reader's minds. Now, please note that a description as a discourse may be relevant at lower levels, but at higher levels, it may get merged into other discourses like narratives or autobiographical sketches or even screenplays and even drama scripts. Okay. Now let us examine the features of a discourse called narrative. Please listen to a piece of narrative presented by a teacher in the classroom.
Chintu was doing his homework. He felt bored. He stretched his hands and legs. He said, "Okay, now let me take some rest." He went to the next room, but he left his box open. Then a funny thing happened. A long pencil from the box got out and it said, "What a lucky day! आज तो ये बॉक्स ओपन रख दिया, मैं आज बाहर आऊंगी, थोड़ा फ्रेश एयर लूंगी." Okay, then it came out of the box, it saw here and there. Then it thought, this table is very, very big. इतना लंबा टेबल पे से मैं नीचे कैसे जाऊंगी? Then it thought and thought. It said, okay, let me slide from the side. और वो टेबल के साइड में से स्लाइड कर गया. उसके बाद में देखा वो नीचे है. Then it stretched its hands and legs again. It jumped, it danced, it rolled on the carpet. Then something happened.
Now you listen to that narrative. Now what are the features that you have noticed?
It contains like
give a cue.
Sequence of events and dialogues.
Self-talks. You mean thoughts of the characters. So the sequence of events and dialogues are the essential features of a narrative. But when it goes higher up, you will get other features like sensory perceptions, images, and also the ambience created through language.
Children, do you want to listen to the narrative? Yes. Listen to the story. Ponnamma sat on the veranda looking across the field. Soon it will grow dark. There is no sign of Vishnu. Why is he not coming? She felt unusually alone. It was a feeling of being left alone in the wilderness. In the dim evening light, Ponnamma sat on the veranda all alone. Ponnamma and her loneliness. Frightening loneliness. Ponnamma and her thoughts. Haunting thoughts. There was deep silence inside her. But there was noise outside. The piercing sound of restless crickets. The haunting cries of restless frogs. From the other side of the field, bright light was flowing around. It was Radhika's house. Light from Radhika's house helps people walking through the fields. Then Ponnamma saw Vishnu walking homewards through the field. From mounted path to the old canal and then to the courtyard of the house. Aren't you hungry? You had only one chapati for lunch. Who told you? I had a full lunch. Ponnamma was totally surprised. She pinpointed his face. How? Then Vishnu explained her how Radhika had starved for him. A deep breath gushed out from Ponnamma. She has much concern for you. She is a nice girl, said Ponnamma. What is in your mind, mother? Asked Vishnu. Oh, nothing. Come, we'll have food. From the dampness of the veranda, they moved to the warmth of the kitchen. The pleasant smell of boiled tapioca. The appetizing smell of cooked fish.
And also the point of view of the author and things like that. Now here is one excerpt from a classic writer. You can read that. It is given to you.
That evening, Dr. Rios was standing in the entrance, feeling for the latchkey in his pocket. Before starting up the stairs to his apartment, he saw a big rat coming towards him from the dark end of the passage. It moved uncertainly, and its fur was sopping wet. The animal stopped and seemed to be trying to get its balance. Moved forward again towards the doctor, halted again, then spun round on itself with a little squeal and fell on its side. Its mouth was slightly open and blood was spurting from it. After gazing it for a moment, the doctor went upstairs.
Yeah. So this is an excerpt from The Plague, the story by Kafka. Okay. Now you can see that a narrative contains several other features also. Now look at the screen. You can see that there are features like a sequence of events, picturesque descriptions, dialogues and thoughts of the characters, sensual perceptions of the characters. The other discourses also have similar features like this. So in the coming lessons, we'll take up some of the other discourses. So please recapitulate what we discussed in this lesson.
In this lesson, we looked at different discourses, different types of discourses, and the features of each of these discourses.
Yeah.
There are discourses which is common for all the levels, but when you go higher, the features will be different.
Yeah, there will be added features. That's the point. Thank you.